just start off by introducing yourself, like your name, anything that you want the audience to know.
Okay. Wait, should I look at the camera, or should I just?
You can look at me. But yeah,
well,
just like age, occupation, any of your
okay.
affiliation with
Well,
politics.
I'm Brian. I'm 19 years old. I go to Loyola University Chicago. I'm a full-time undergraduate student there. Major in biology. Yeah.
So where were you, and like when did you hear about the election results?
So I went to sleep. So I think the results were like released like at 3 a.m. or something like that. I went to sleep at like 1. I was like, I'm too tired. I woke up, and then I overheard my sister asking, because she was going to school, and my sister was asking my dad, like, oh, who won? My dad's like, Trump won, and I was like, I just woke up, so I'm like still recollecting myself, and I'm like, what? So I checked my phone really quick, and I'm thinking, oh, let's see if that's actually true. And I was like going through people's statuses, and it says like, oh, Trump won, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this actually happened. My initial reaction, I guess, to that is, I just like started to feel like a headache for some reason. I guess I was just really shocked. I didn't know how to react. A lot of people were reacting in like sorrow and pain and fear. I was just like super shocked. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I mean, yeah, just shock. I don't even know how to describe it. I guess it's just. I guess even right now, I'm still surprised that like someone like Trump won. I guess.
So like leading up to the election, did you think that Hillary was going to win majority?
Yeah, I really thought she was gonna win just because I felt like, well, I know a lot of millennials were planning to vote, so that's like really nice. I just thought she would win just on the common sense of not electing someone else that evicts fear onto people. Like, I'm surprised he won because of that. Well, actually, no. I am surprised. Well, I am surprised that he won because of the fear he evicts to other people, and that's why I thought Hillary would win, despite a lot of her like criminal background, you know.
So what do you think are like the greatest social implications, especially like for our nation that has had a lot of trouble in the past?
I know we've always had like institutionalized racism that's just never went away. We've made progress for sure, at least like through laws, like the 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment, Civil Rights Act, things like that. Of course, there's still a social aspect on the opposite spectrum. So, I mean, we have laws that prohibit racism, right? We have affirmative action, things like that. But then there are a lot of people that culturally still don't accept that. They don't accept racial equality. And so, I guess seeing Trump win, I've seen this like on social media a lot, and I really relate to it. It's like, people who did vote for Trump, they saw I don't want to say politically, but I guess in terms of agenda and what what each candidate was gonna do for the country, Trump probably to a lot of people seemed more, what's it called? More appealing. Like, oh, like Hillary, I guess, like, oh, it's unprofessional of her to use her own private email, things like that, or like she's done a lot of things, or she has a lot of things that don't seem to go well for the country. But I guess what still sticks to me the most is that you still voted for someone that, despite he could be having like the best plans and acts and whatnot, he still represented the real possible. Like he represented his racism. Like, oh, it's okay to do it. And I've seen on social media, like, if that wasn't enough for you to say no, then something's wrong with you. And I think I can agree to that. It's for me. I think some of Trump's plans, I guess. I mean, they're not. Some of them were better compared to Hillary, right? Like I'll be honest. Like Hillary's plans weren't always the best either. There were pros and cons on each side, and like Trump is not entirely negative. He has ideas that could potentially benefit the nation. But the reason why I didn't vote for him is because I didn't want his victory to empower racism, and that's why I didn't vote for him, because I wouldn't want other people who are discriminated against, to feel like they need to live in even more fear than they already do.
Did you have any friends or close people who voted differently than you did, whether it's like third party or for Trump, or even not at all? And like,
so I don't have a close friend, but I guess I wouldn't call him a friend, more like an acquaintance, I guess, like someone I knew him. Kind of, we're on the friendly terms. I was actually very surprised because he's not heterosexual, he's homosexual, and he voted for Trump, and that just really surprised me. It took me astray because I didn't understand how he could vote for someone who doesn't agree with homosexuality at all, who chose a vice president that definitely doesn't support LGBT rights at all. So yeah, I'm still surprised actually. I think he, like many other people that did vote for Trump, they probably oversaw, like, oh, like they may be like super racist, super this, or super discriminating, but he's still a better candidate, and I can understand why they would feel that way, because maybe they haven't had the experience to feel discrimination. Like, for instance, I've never felt discrimination for being Asian or for being a minority. Like, I was never bullied and stuff like that. So it's easy for me to like maybe vote for Trump and like, oh, like I don't think he's being racist, because I never felt that way, even though I'm a minority. But I guess what this acquaintance lacked, I don't want to assume, but I'm going to assume that he lacked compassion. The feeling or the state where, oh, I've never experienced discrimination, but I know someone that has, or there are people out there that has, and I don't want to make their situation even worse than it already is or can be. So I'm assuming, I don't know, maybe that's something he didn't realize, and yeah, I mean, I don't hate him I'm still really confused. I like, it's just really hard to wrap my head around that someone that's a minority would vote for someone who doesn't advocate for the support of minorities.
so you talked a little bit about the identity groups that you may or may not belong to. So being Asian is considered a minority in the US. Like, what identities do you identify with or have they been impacted by the election at all? Do you see anything?
Actually, personally, I don't know, because I personally never experienced discrimination, racism, anything like that. But the way Trump talks about China, so I'm Chinese, right? So, and apparently China created global warming as a hoax to, I don't even know what, I don't know where he was going with that, but I'm sure there are people that actually believe what he said about that. And there are going to be people who dislike China for being a superpower. I feel like a lot of people see China as a potential rival, right, against the US. And so being Chinese, if I'm pretty sure if I lived in society, if I lived in a community where there was more racism, I would probably experience it a lot more just because I'm Chinese and I might be blamed for wasting money on global warming, which is apparently a hoax, or stealing all of our workers, you know, which isn't actually, I don't think that's true. I don't understand why people say that other countries are stealing like US workers, but companies actually go to other countries because they can pay less. So you shouldn't target the other workers from other countries. It's the companies you should be targeting because they're the ones that are going to other countries because they know staying here, it's gonna cost them more. They're gonna make less because of minimum wage, stuff like that. But if they move overseas, the companies know they can pay workers so much more or less than they would here, and just facts like that. And people not knowing that, but they believe that like countries like China are stealing like work. Like that's just not entirely true.
What type of media or like social media do you normally use to get your information? So like stuff about the election and then the issues surrounding the election. Where do you normally go?
So, well, this is bad, but I usually use Facebook. You know, Facebook, but that's where I get a lot of information from, and I get a lot of, well, but on Facebook I know people that are very involved in politics, like they're political science majors, they're social work majors, things like that. They worked for the government before, so I do get their information from them via Facebook. So, I mean, and sometimes you'll see like articles lying around, and you know, you just gotta make sure that they're true, of course, right? Like there are articles about Clinton selling missiles to ISIS, like that literally makes no sense. And I'm sure there are articles about Trump that are fake too, that are just meant to aggravate us, like the people, and make us believe one way or another. But I think the information I get is pretty reliable because the people I get the information from are like, they work for the government, they do this, they do that. They're pretty involved in these kind of things. So, yeah.
So how have you responded to or dealt with the election?
So like I said before, it was like I was like in a state of shock, I guess. But at the same time, so actually, okay, so a lot of people are like oh, he's not my president. They reacted very emotionally to his election, to his presidency, his victory. And they would say things like, I don't know, just like things like that, right? They would react very emotionally. For me, I didn't react as emotionally, probably because I don't have that experience of being discriminated against. I think that's like the big reason why I can't understand sometimes. But I just saw it as a key moment. This might sound like very bad, but I feel like without his victory, we as minorities wouldn't be more united and more together to fight against discrimination. So I guess in some way his victory was needed, I guess, or even positive sometimes. Because I do think because of his victory, we as like a lot of people have noticed that, oh, there's even more racism than I thought there was. You know, being raised in a community that's like very diverse, where a little discrimination happens, usually, like it rarely happens. I would think, oh, like if my world is like this, then everyone, at least the majority of everywhere else is like this. They're very understanding. They're very kind and compassionate. But no, like not really. So the results of the election kind of, it's driven me even more. It's made me even more determined to not be silent and to use my voice in any way possible to fight for any social injustice at any moment. So like I would, share things. I feel like, I guess I haven't participated in anything super active, like protesting or anything like that. But I do try to stay active in social media. I think for me the big thing is um, knowledge and spreading knowledge. So like on social media, I feel like sharing knowledge and having other people see that is really important. I'm in a dance group. We did like a Black Lives Matters performance. We hoped that it would like spread and stuff. And when we did that Black Lives Matter performance, it wasn't about winning. It was about spreading our message that Trump's election won't silence us. We will not be silent just because someone who empowers racism won, and it seems like, and it might feel like for racists and for racists to feel like, oh, I can do whatever I want, but no, we're gonna come back and fight like even stronger.
So, you talked a little bit about activism, or in your case, like being active on social media. I guess, what are your future plans from like how to go on from here, like personally, or like what should we do as a nation in
I think
general?
that's just like really hard because I feel like I don't know. I think I used to be very inactive about anything. I would just listen and watch. So I guess for me, I guess like I know like if people watch this and they can be like, oh, social media, that's like nothing. I mean, to me that's a lot just because it's like baby steps. I don't usually voice my beliefs about anything really. So voicing it in social media where a lot of people read and listen and share, that's a big step for me. I feel like eventually I want to, do things. I want to maybe protest things or donate money, things like that. Raise and donate money to charities, stuff like that. Inform other people about injustice and stuff like that. I guess, yeah, just like informing other people. That's something I want to do. I don't know how I would do it. That might be through social media. That might be through standing in the street, informing people. I feel like if I did see discrimination happen somewhere, I'm much more likely to stand up against it. I don't want to be a bystander because now I feel an even bigger sense of guilt if I did nothing. But yeah, those are, I guess, my personal plans at least. Just mentally feeling more active and involved and trying to make everyone else get in that mindset, so we're all slowly taking steps. In terms of a nation, that's just a really, really hard question. I mean, there are like protests about Trump, about Trump, and then there's I don't even know where to start. I feel like I don't know. I feel like just sharing on social media that you are against something isn't enough. I feel like this would include myself. I feel like a lot of us need to be proactive and at least reach out to government officials and be like, this is not okay. And a lot of us, if you haven't noticed, are not agreeing to this at all. And I feel like that might be more effective than like physical protesting, maybe, because I think it's more effective to go to your local official or go to the president. Like I mean I don't know much about this, but I'm pretty sure you can like send like letters and like emails to like the people that we've elected to do things about that. A lot of people just share and don't do anything and assume that's empowering enough, which in some sense it is, but to make it to that next step and actually make change happen, we have to I feel like we have to prove to ourselves and prove to the people we've elected that that this is something we care about, and if you don't fix it, then something bad could happen. So for instance, that could be about the Dakota Access Pipeline. A lot of people probably sympathize with Native Americans, like, oh, like it's not fair, but sympathy is it's a great first step. I'm not saying it's useless. It's like a really great first step. Realizing the issue and understanding, oh, I agree with it, but you can't just stop. you know, we got to take the next step and do something about it. And like it can be even something as simple. This is something my friend did. It could be easy. It could be as simple as tagging like the president in your Facebook post, because you can, and like saying like, hey, this is serious. You need to address it somehow. Like you need to say something. Things like that. Protests, for me, they're a little bit more. I don't know. I think protests are very fragile things, because to me protests can be so useful. Like it shows that a lot of people took the time out of their day and are distracting everyone else's day, and to show that this is something you can't ignore. But at the same time, there are people that get violent and see protest as a violent way to lash out with your emotions. That's not okay. Some people do think it's okay to like stop traffic and like stop ambulances from saving people. Protests are just very difficult to understand, and they're super fragile, because there are gonna be people whose lives they're trying to have like a normal day, and their lives can be endangered just because someone is careless about the way they protest. I feel like there needs to be a better way to protest, a better way to show solidarity, physically, not just like through the internet, but physically. I think in Minnesota, they blocked, like a group of protesters, like a lot of them blocked an entire highway, and good for you for standing up and showing that that's how angry you are, that you would stop like an entire highway. But it's so hard to also be on their side completely, because if I was driving and I had to be somewhere, and I was someone that does, and let's say I am someone that would protest with them, like I share the same ideology, but at the moment I'm trying to get home because I have like an emergency or something, but I can't because of a protest, I personally would be very upset. You know, I think it's just things like that make protests very fragile things. Like that's why I normally don't participate in them, because I don't know. Like, what if I'm actually doing more harm than good? What if I'm hurting someone that doesn't know that there's a protest? You know, especially if they're like random protests that just like disrupt people's days. I think for a nation though, the biggest thing is to just have compassion, no matter what. Show that you understand not even both sides, all sides of everything. Because a lot of people, especially on social media, but just in general, everyone, they think it's one-sided or maybe even two-sided, but no, it's all-sided. It's everything, and I feel like everyone needs to show, I understand you, but this. A lot of people just say, no, it's this, right? And that's not okay, because we can't invalidate anyone, you know. I mean, that just goes for life in general, but for this particularly, it can't be one or two-sided, because we can't invalidate someone, because what if because we can't compare things. We can't say, oh, this experience was bad, but my experience is worse, so I'm better than you, or I'm worse than, no, you can't do that. You know, that's not okay. And so compassion is about finding that middle ground and showing that, oh, we understand each other. Let's move on from this. Let's be the bigger person, and which can be really hard. This is something that's really hard for a lot of people. Not everyone can do it. So it's something that I feel like everyone needs to do. And for those that can be compassionate and can be that bigger person, you know, let things go for the sake of moving up, for the sake of progressing. I feel like it's their duty to help people reach that level too.
Are there any final thoughts or anything else you'd like to say?